Good morning, everyone, and Boker Tov. This week's Torah portion tells the story of Lavan, the uncle of Jacob, and how Jacob comes to his home to find refuge. And he falls in love with Rachel, and he asks Laban if he could marry Rachel. And he says, sure, just work for me 7 years, and I'll give you my daughter's hand in marriage. But after the 7 years are up, he tricks Jacob, and he sends Leah, the older sister, to the marriage canopy. And when Jacob realizes he was deceived, he goes to his father-in-law Laban and he says, Lavan, why did you trick me? Why did you deceive me? And Laban says to his son-in-law, Lo yaseh kain bimkomenu. This is not the way we do things in our locale, in our town, in our community. Laset hatzira lifnei habchira, to allow the younger daughter to get married before the older daughter. That's not our tradition, our custom. It's not permitted here to allow a younger sibling to marry before an older. And therefore, I had to give you the older sister, Leah. And if you want Rachel's hand in marriage, you have to work an additional 7 years, which Jacob did to marry his beloved Rachel. And here in this story, we see what it means to be a Lavan. Lavan represents an unethical, unscrupulous, immoral, deceitful, shyster, con artist, trickster. And it represents someone who, like the word Lavan, white, who tries to project themselves as clean, pure, innocent, like the color white, but really they're duplicitous, really they're unethical. You see, Lavan doesn't say, yes, I tricked you, I cheated you. He doesn't acknowledge that, but rather he blames it on his environment, on his community. This is the laws of the land. This is the custom of our town. There's nothing I can do. It's not me. It's the local tradition that I have to follow. He passes the blame to others. He doesn't take personal responsibility. You see, a good person, a moral, ethical, righteous person, when they're successful, they don't take credit for themselves. They say, it wasn't me, it was everyone, it was the team. They put the spotlight on everyone, not just on themselves. But when there's a failure, they stand up and take personal responsibility. But a Laban does the opposite. When he's successful, he takes the credit for himself. But when he does something immoral, he says, this is the custom of the land. Last week, a Jew by the name of Shalom Nagar passed away in Israel at the age of 88 years old. Who was Shalom Nagar? He was in 1961, when there was the Eichmann trial in Israel, he was the guard who was given the responsibility of watching Eichmann. He sat across his cell and made sure that he doesn't commit suicide throughout the trial. There were many Holocaust survivors. It was 1961 who wanted to kill Eichmann, but Israel wanted to make sure he gets a fair trial. Whenever food was served, Shalom Nagar had to eat it to make sure it wasn't poisoned by someone in the kitchen. So if he didn't die within 2 minutes, they would serve Eichmann the food. And ultimately, when Eichmann was convicted of the murder of 6 million and the atrocities, he was the hangman who actually hanged Eichmann. And Shalom Nagar went on to become a very religious Jew. And you see the picture of how he died last week, has a beard and peyot. After that experience, although he did the right thing, it was a very traumatic experience in his life. And he became very, very connected to his Jewish roots. And he became very learned, and he would spend his days in the study hall learning Torah all day. Shalom Nagar, no one knew his identity from 1961 until 1991. 30 years later, the Mossad unsealed the documents of his role in the Eichmann trial. Because they didn't want to reveal his identity, they thought maybe somebody would try to harm him. And when he was revealed as the person who was Eichmann's executioner, there were many interviews with him throughout Israel and around the world. A German TV station reached out to him and said, we'd like to interview you to understand the last days and months of Eichmann's life. And he agreed to the interview, and he said, I want the interview to take place Monday morning, 8 a.m. at the Western Wall. They said, fine. They came to the Western Wall, and if you know the Western Wall on a Monday morning, There's thousands of people, there's bar mitzvahs, there's celebrations, there's music, there's singing, there's dancing. And they said, this is a very noisy place. Maybe we could find a quiet studio. He said, no, I want to do it here. They said, okay, if you want a religious setting, we could find a local synagogue in Jerusalem that's quiet, maybe a library with Jewish books. He says, the interview has to take place right here at the Western Wall, or else there won't be an interview. Having no choice, although Germans like things very organized and meticulous, they had no choice. They conducted the interview live at the Western Wall. When they finished the interviewer said, I have one last question for you. Why did you insist on conducting the interview right here at the Western Wall? And Shalom Naga said, I know that this interview will be broadcasted into millions and millions of homes in Germany. I wanted the German people to see that they failed and we succeeded, that we are back in our homeland, the land of Israel, after 1900 years, that we are alive again, that we are at the Western Wall, that we are flourishing, that these Torah scrolls that they burnt in Germany on Kristallnacht are now being read by 13-year-old children in their mitzvah. I want you to see our joy, our life, our vitality, that we are not only survived the Holocaust, but we are thriving after the Holocaust. I want them to see all the Jewish books that we are studying and reading now once again as a proud Jewish nation. You see, Eichmann at his trial, he took no responsibility for his atrocities, but rather he said, I was just a small cog in a wheel. I was following orders, like the Nuremberg trial defense. I was following orders. It's not my fault. This is what was done in Germany by my higher-ups. I'm not accountable for my crimes. But a Jew is just the opposite. We take personal responsibility. And after the greatest tragedy, we went home to Israel. We stood up. We rose up. We took action. And with God's help, we prevailed. That's the message of Jacob versus Laban. Have a wonderful day.